you don't have to worry about the consumer not trusting you anymore. You have to worry about ChatGPT not trusting you. And that's a very scary thing.
It's everyone's dream to grow, to be a bigger dealer, to be a better dealer, or even get your first dealership.
Car buying is about the people.
Everybody wants to know what's the car business like, and they like to see under the hood.
Welcome to the Walk Around Podcast.
I am one of your hosts, Mark Spoto, joined by my co-host, Heather Wilkinson. Hello, Heather.
Hello, Mark. And I can't wait to get into the conversation with Brian around digital transformation, the used car market, the opportunities that are out there for dealers. I mean, Brian shared so much insight, as he always does.
He always does. He's the EVP of Dealer Growth and Success at Cars Commerce. But, you know, Brian's been in the industry. He's been in retail for 30 years. And he has such a unique perspective on what's happening from a digital perspective, but also how can dealers just be better in their process?
And then also around how F&I technology can really drive the attachment rate and products.
And
a
we
little
have,
insight
we have a little
on,
bit of interest in that F&I technology. Hint, hint. We talked to him about Gyde.
Yes, we did.
All right, let's get to it. Let's take a walk around with Brian Kramer. Well, we are thrilled to have the one and only Brian Kramer with us on the Walk Around podcast. I think for the third time, Brian?
Yes.
Yes, this is such a pleasure. We always love having you, your insights, your perspective on the industry. Let's jump right in.
For sure.
I love mixing it up with you guys.
Let's mix it up.
It would not be an industry update without having your expertise. So we really appreciate you being here, Brian.
I appreciate you.
So obviously you are involved in all things digital. What should dealers be thinking about when we talk digital retailing in 2026? This has been an ongoing topic for the industry for years. Where are we at? Where do you see it going? Have we gotten further than we've ever been? Tell us what you're thinking.
Yeah, and it's almost like a sequel to what we've been talking about the last few years, right? Mm-hmm. And why are dealers not being more transparent overall? You know, some of them are, but why don't they provide more information? And we finally crossed that threshold, I think, now, especially with AI search. So like what we're doing right now with Cars.com is we've got an AI tool called Carson. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It allows clients to, no different than ChatGPT or something like that, to do long-tailed searches on our website. But it's referencing, just like with ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, it's going to reference trusted signals, citations, so reviews. And it's going to do almost like a truth serum. So as we see on our Dealer Inspire websites, we've got like 7,000 websites, and we look to see what happens on a website, what causes consumers to convert. Mm-hmm. What causes them to convert is if you're going to show up in a ChatGPT or a Google AI overview, for instance, mm-hmm. there's only one answer. And how that answer is determined by digital trust. So it's going to say, I'll give you an example. If you say you have 60-minute oil changes and your reviews, which there's many dealers in this situation, mm-hmm. the reviews say it takes 2 hours, 2.5 hours to get an oil change. Mm-hmm. You're not going to show up because the large language model doesn't feel like it can trust you. Mm-hmm. Less is more in 2026, and it's never going back. But the other thing is that you've got to really live up to these standards, and you've got to guard that, because you don't have to worry about the consumer not trusting you anymore. You have to worry about ChatGPT not trusting you. And that's a very scary thing. And the ones that are the most trusted and the most transparent and the most, frictionless and easy, similar to this, your new product Gyde I just saw. Mm-hmm. When you're doing things like that, the LLM knows it, and it knows that people aren't bouncing, and it knows that they're more engaged. And the more engaged you can keep people, the more they're going to transact, and the more it's going to recommend you.
And pull them at the top of the feed or the top of the search.
Yes, or even as the answer. Like if you get on ChatGPT and you ask it a question, right, it'll then tell you, would you like me to show you how to do this? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Give you the answer. Mm-hmm. You want to be that answer.
Do you feel like, the dealers that we talk to seem like they're still sort of mixed in reviews of AI and how it's really helping their business? Do you think they're not seeing enough of the opportunity, or are they right to be cautious? And I think where I'm going more specifically is like customer contacts, communication, that I think consumers are still a little bit unsatisfied dealing with that side of AI and would rather talk to a person. So do you think dealers should be focusing more on this type of AI technology that's helping them from an operational standpoint rather than focus on the customer contact?
He always has the good questions. Right? So
Goes deep.
yes. And I think that dealers should be very cautious because there's a lot of shiny objects here.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of AI and everything's stamped with AI and it's, made with AI, but it's not all real. And there's different levels of it, right? And there's some that are generative and some that are self-healing and some of them that are just what they call RPA. It's repeatable programmable actions where they retrofitted something.
Yeah.
And they're not building something new. Like as you're building this native, Gyde, you're building it with that infrastructure, I'm sure. But somebody that built something 3 years ago, it's not the same if you just go and put AI on it. It has to be, built from within.
To break this down in the most simplistic level for our listeners,
Yes.
Brian, I'm a dealer. I've got my website. I've got ChatGPT. I have my used car inventory. Give me 3 things I should be thinking about.
You should be thinking about, from a used car inventory standpoint, how you index with your photos, with your merchandising. There's a very specific way, like with AccuTrade, we've built this into our new inventory management tool where it's written in schema, which is what's easier for a bot or an agent to read. And right now, for the first time in history, more than half of the internet traffic overall is bots and agents, and it's not going back. So you've got more traffic online from that than you do from humans. So you have to appeal to that customer, and you have to appeal to a bot or robot.
I get that bot or agent to recognize my inventory, recognize my dealership.
And recognize your photos. So some people are going too far on AI photos, and it doesn't have a shadow, and it looks like it's floating. Google doesn't like that.
Not real.
Right. And so it has to look real. It values authenticity. It doesn't want cookie cutter comments and just that sort of thing. And to reference what Mark's talking about with the calls, the texts, there's a lot of cookie cutter out there, and there's a lot of average. And if you've got a below average store, it can get you to average. But if you have a good or an exceptional store, that's a different conversation. And if you want to go to a real high level of excellence, a lot of these tools don't allow you to tune the answers and personalize the personas to your business, your dealership. And that's a huge piece that I know that's a big piece of your product that I just saw is the customization of it. And so if I'm a dealer, I want that on everything that I do. I want it on my website. I want it on my chat tool. And I don't want the conflicting messages, which is where you're going, where I've got one chat tool that does this. I've got one AI tool that follows up that doesn't communicate with this over here. Causes confusion for the customer, causes confusion for search engines. And nobody likes that whatsoever, and especially the consumer, but also the dealership associates. It's just too confusing. I think that I know that every dealership needs to be focusing on less is more right now. And if you got 3 or 4, what's my trade worth on your website, payment calculator, get pre-approved. If you have get pre-approved, you have a subprime message that conflicts with another page, anything that's not consistent, you're not gonna be the answer that gets recommended by these engines.
Brian, you mentioned it a couple times. Gyde, thank you. It's shameless plug time. What do you think? What are your impressions?
I didn't even know this thing was coming out until I walked over here. So kudos to you guys for keeping that under wraps, because I like to think that I know what's going on.
and we were very surprised by that
That's
because keeping something under wraps, it's typically not something you
Especially
see in the
with
automotive
you, Brian.
industry.
You're so plugged
right.
in.
You are plugged
I
into
thought
so
I was
much.
until this morning.
Right.
But I was very impressed. I'm actually still very impressed with what I just saw. Wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
And I'll just say this candidly: you guys are very good at execution. You're consistent. I don't think anybody executes better than you guys do. I'm talking about this the business, right? The simplicity, pay plan, process, people,
Right.
and how it all ties together.
Until now.
Until now, and what I just saw was absolutely amazing. I mean, it's dynamic, it's intuitive. You can tell it's powered by AI. I don't know exactly how it's all built from behind, but as I'm looking at it, I'm thinking about a recent experience I had selling my vehicle to a large used car aggregator, and as I'm looking at it, that process was a little too easy, and I think dealers need to be terrified of somebody else doing that and they're not matching that experience. But I felt that when I just went through that Gyde presentation, that it felt very similar to that used car aggregator's process of selling my vehicle. It was just so easy. It was so intuitive. And my perception is it makes it almost too easy to buy products, you know? But you could text somebody that, you could email. I'm thinking about it from a virtual standpoint. If I was in retail, I'd want that thing like yesterday.
That's good to hear.
Absolutely.
Well, we were going to come back to you in several months and see what other impressions you're hearing about the product. But let's go on to something that we know is also near and dear to your heart: used car inventory and appraisals. What are some big opportunities for dealers to get smart with appraisals and inventory management?
So similar to AI, there's a lot of things you can get lost in with used cars, and you can get in used car acquisition. And everybody always says it's the biggest pain point, along with consumer affordability, the sourcing used cars from consumers. And here's the ones that are doing it the best are putting their best foot forward. They're being very transparent. It's very simple. Not a lot of steps on the website in order to get from A to B. But most importantly, the ones that I see that are winning, and I use you guys as an example. I'm not saying this because I'm here, but I use JM&A as an example where when I came into stores and took them from $600 a copy to over $2,000 a copy, and that doesn't just happen. It's a series of small events that happen. And I know that when I first started in the late 90s in F&I, a long time ago, I was $400 a copy was a good job, and then by 2010, $1,000 a copy was a good job. And it's very easy to forget how that happened, right? But I'll tell you what I didn't do, or nobody in the industry did back then. We didn't actively go out and interview the client at their, where they're located. We didn't then go back and summary close them later on and tie our menu presentation back to the needs analysis or the interview. We also didn't core comp people. We also tolerated below average performance because we didn't have really, disciplined metrics. We didn't have a cadence of accountability. And I couldn't tell you what's my percentage of service contracts, what's my prepaid maintenance, what's my excess wear and tear, what's my tire and wheel. And I'm just going through my Stone Eagle, in my mind.
Yeah.
But so as I talked to a lot of these dealers, and they're like, well, we're running $2,000 a copy in used cars, and that's good operational. That's average, right? But it's been $2,000 a copy since 1995, 2005, 15 to 25. Whereas F&I has gone up. Used cars just stays the same. Now, the dealers that I work with that are using, they're getting real surgical with AccuTrade to be able to source more used cars. They spend more time pricing their wish list like these other used car aggregators do than pricing their aged inventory because they source the right cars. But more importantly, it's what I just experienced when I sold my vehicle. They connect the online to the in-store process seamlessly, brilliantly at the basics. And if you think about service contracts, you think about prepaid maintenance, you think about tire and wheel. In the used car world, it's the exact same thing. Did you measure the tread depth? Did you scan it with an OBD scanner?
Have you done the Carfax? Have you done the title history?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, it's more about process and less about the technology that they're using?
Yes.
And
I'm a technology guy.
And you can have all the tools and technology in the world. If you don't have the right process, whether it's in used cars, F&I, sales,
Anywhere.
or service, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Because it becomes a moot point. It becomes something the dealer is just paying for over and over. But they don't have a process that's followed consistently on every appraisal.
100, you just nailed it. And we've got dealers, I can think of one dealer group that does an amazing job. And I said, you tolerate these things in your used car department. They don't anymore. I said that you would never tolerate in your F&I department. You would have somebody coming in core comping these people. You're at 30% on this one metric. You would never tolerate that in F&I. And you might have tolerated it 20 years ago in F&I, but you don't today. Why do you do that in used cars? And that same group I'm thinking about, they sell 40,000 plus used cars a year. They doubled their average used car PVR per vehicle retailed 2 years ago, and then they doubled it again. Now their sales are up 2-3%, but when you're doubling your gross and it's all it is stopping the leakage.
Yeah. So what was the key success factor to doubling in that particular group's case?
they were measuring tread depth maybe 20-30% of the time, like a normal dealer is. And tires right now are insanely expensive with the tariffs, and some of them are up 30%. They weren't taking the time to look at windshields. And right now, those ADAS windshields can be $3,200 with the safety features in them. And arbitrarily before they were like, oh, it might be $600. Or I'm just going to put a flat $1,500 recon on there. And it wasn't being surgical. And they weren't taking the time. They weren't slowing down. And they weren't treating it like their F&I department. And the dealers that we have that are treating their used car department like an F&I department, and they're executing and they're taking the online appraisal and then masterfully with the client present, just like an interview, right? They're not back behind and many still just do it behind closed doors, like they used to do F&I, right? Oh yeah. I'm gonna run $800 a copy, but I'm not gonna go out and get actively involved with the customer. The ones that are getting actively involved, they're gonna connect whatever the online appraisal was, and they're gonna say, here's what the online appraisal was. We just walked around this is the difference. And in many cases, $800-900 a car. And that difference times thousands of car deals adds up. And typically used car managers just eat it, or the new car department just, hey, don't worry about that. I don't want you to blow my deal. And the customer knows. They know that they're waiting for you to do it. But you just have to be brilliant at the basics and, I guess, stick the landing.
Brian, thinking about the basics, dealers are always looking for the best place to find their used car inventory. And really the best place for a dealer to find his used car inventory is that trade that pulls in or in their service lane. Would you agree? Right?
Yes.
And we need that consistency of the process. So how can service and sales teams really collaborate better together to more effectively convert those high equity customers that are in the service lane? And this is something we've talked about for decades, and we still talk about it. How do they get them more inclined to buy a vehicle at that dealership when they're in that service department? What could they be doing to work better together?
These questions today, Heather, that's a good one. That's a daily one for me.
Yeah.
So I just had this conversation last night. We deal with thousands of dealers, obviously. We got like 20,000 dealers on our products. And as I go around the country, there's not a single dealer that I'm aware of. And I visit them all. I seek them out to try to find the top at this. And there's not a single one that uses technology without execution that drives more than 0.5% of acquisitions as a percentage of repair orders that I'm aware of. Now, those stores that are 3, 4, 5%, but they're physically going out, they're greeting the clients. They're not harassing them. They're just asking if they'd like to know what their vehicle's worth. They're not pre-qualifying them. They're not trying to determine what's their interest rate. Can I lower their payment? And trying to over-engineer the deal as to because that's where a lot of people make a big mistake. They try to architect the whole deal, and they waste a bunch of the manager's time when they don't even know if the customer's engaged. I would mine for commitment. I would mine for interest or engagement instead of equity. And a lot of these clients have negative equity, but intent is really what we should be mining for, rather than equity. And it requires them walking up to somebody, shaking their hand. All the stores that are 3% or above are actively involved. And when you're saying how do you get the service department and the sales department working together, a lot of people overthink that. And the big mistake I made is I was all excited. I'm high-fiving. We're acquiring a bunch of cars off the service drive. And I didn't realize that the service advisor was just steaming. And and typically they just internalize it and they're like, yeah, no, everything's fine. It's fine. And the technician that works for them that did the inspection, that on those 3 or 4 lines on the repair order are sitting back in their toolbox, and then the internal advisor and the internal technician are rocking it out, and they're setting records, and we're celebrating them and all the recognition. All you have to do is just make sure you keep the repair order open and put it back to the advisor, the CP advisor, and quit saying, well, that's the process. It's got to go to internals. Just give it back to them, and you don't have to pay spiffs. You don't have to pay all these bonuses that blow your comp out of the water, and everybody's happy. And then you won't have to worry about sales and service friction. The service advisors will come seeking out your salespeople, and they'll start selling cars for you.
So interesting. I heard process. I heard people. I heard communication.
Pay plans.
Pay plans. I didn't hear the next AI chat bot tool to improve that, though.
No. Brian, on the last question for you, we know you're busy, you got to get going, but obviously with this wave of EVs coming off lease, what do you see, where do you feel that impact is going to make on the used car market? And in particular, like from a pricing and being able to retail that perspective.
I'm super excited about that. More excited than I've been about EVs ever. On the used EVs specifically because of the affordability. You're going to have more used EVs this year that are sub $30,000, which are the cars that move the fastest. And I think that you're also going to have a lot of people that buy their first EV because they're going to be introduced because of these affordability things. And there's a lot of people that, I mean, I talk to them all the time in my, where I live. And like, I would never have, my doctor's one of them. I would never have an EV. And I go, are you sure? I go, these lease deals are pretty strong. No, I'm never going to do that for all these various reasons. And then next thing you know, he's got an EV in his parking spot. And I go, what happened? He goes, man, I tried to look at everything else and the payments were double for the same dollar amount car. And plus it does this and look at these doors and they're all the things. And at the end of the day, affordability is the biggest pain point and people will really quickly get over some of that stuff in order to do that. But my favorite car, I don't care about, my favorite car is the one with the lowest market day supply that sells the fastest. That's my favorite kind of car. Everybody's like, well, you like Ferrari, No, I like the fastest turning car that, with the most amount of gross in the least amount of time. Those are the sexiest cars in the world to me.
So if you're a dealer
EVs this year,
if you're a dealer today, you would focus on acquiring EVs coming off lease.
I wouldn't just focus on acquiring EVs. I would have a whole strategy on getting them from consumers. I would be updating my website. I would make sure that I'm optimized on everywhere to be able to get those. I would be the most aggressive best end user on those, but I would also be updating my website and I would be educating consumers because that's the other thing, how they find you. You think that you've got to call people, prospect them, but instead of going around chasing butterflies with a net, I would rather build a butterfly garden. And the flowers that attract the butterflies on EVs is comparisons. What's the difference between a PHEV and a BEV? And what's a plug-in hybrid versus a regular hybrid? What's the difference? And when you start educating people, they're on your site now.
Well, what a better parting image to think about than Brian in a butterfly garden.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Fly away,
tranquil.
butterfly. Yes.
It's tranquil, it's peaceful, and it brings harmony to the industry.
Especially
Brian,
the used car
thank you so
industry.
much. I also want to emphasize, get brilliant at the basics. I love that.
I stole that from
Yes.
Mike Maroney. I wish I could take the
Well,
credit
then
for
that's
it,
a good
but
person to steal from. Great advice. Brian, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
sharing
It's
with
always a
us.
blast.
Always
guys.
fun.
We really appreciate you joining us today on The Walk Around, and we hope you enjoyed the episode. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow us. We look forward to seeing you next time on The Walk Around.